What are you doing?
I'm walking. I'm the best walker. Right?
Girl, that's not walking. That's falling with style.
I'm doing my best.
Has the day gotten away from you? Did you CC people who you were meant to be CC, and then your boss gets mad at you? Now you got home, and the only thing that you wanted, the only thing that could save the day, was a nice bowl of mint chalky chip. But just as you sit down with it, your dog chases your cat up the sofa, knocking the bowl out of your hands and onto the carpet. So now you're down there, scrubbing the green goo out of the carpet fibers. Ah, c'est la vie. But now you're here at Say Callie. So sit back, relax, get yourself a brand new bowl, and let's just get started. I have been sick. I had a few productive weeks, and then I hit my proverbial chronic illness wall, and the world just laughed at my hubris, and I was reminded very loudly that I am indeed disabled. Thanks, universe, for that reminder. So that meant taking a few weeks off, and to be honest, I'm still behind on a couple of projects, but I am slowly and with great patience, which I'm not great at, getting caught up. It also meant that I needed to reach out, ask for help a little bit more, which admittedly is not my strong suit, but thankfully I have a lot of really good people in my life who are always there for me. This was one of those things that I needed to learn when I was coming to terms with my disability, that I needed to accept help and also sometimes ask for it. And truthfully, I'm very blessed in this regard. I have a lot of help in my life from, the people in it, and also the mobility aids and all the items in our house that were specifically made to help me be a bit more safe or independent. For example, I use a wheelchair for distances that are probably a bit more than a couple of meters. And then for the short distances, like around the house, I can use a cane for extra balance and support. I have a small collection of mobility aids now. I even name them. My canes are Sugar, Abel, and Rosebud. I also have one back in America named Lana, and my chair is called Vesper. I like puns, okay? I also use a shower chair so I don't fall when I stare into the void, soaking in existential dread, also known as showering. I have one of those clippy grabby things that you press the trigger and you can reach stuff from far away. It helps mitigate some risk for me, and it also makes it so that I can reach stuff that is high up when I'm using a wheelchair. But also, I have limited range of motion in my shoulders. I can't exactly reach in certain positions or extend my reach very far. If I try, then... And now... A disability aside with Callie. Let's talk accommodations. I think that some people have a sort of skewed concept of what accommodations actually mean. Because if you don't know what it's like to live with a disability, you might see some of these devices and think that all these things do is help someone be lazy. Like those grabby, clippy things that I still don't know the official name of. I can see how having a device like that, something that makes it so I don't have to reach very far, it might come across as something that makes me be lazy. If we take away the fact that it's either very dangerous or very painful or just not possible for me to do it without that tool. Instead of making it so I can reach with less effort than what an able-bodied person might be able to do without it, we've made it so it's just as simple for me as it is for them to do the task. That's what good accommodation does. It evens the playing field just a little bit. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world that is not built for disabled folks. Of course not, since the world is primarily comprised of able-bodied people. That makes sense to me. But because of that, we need to consider accommodation to make it so that people who are not able-bodied can exist in the same spaces. but that's not always a priority. So sometimes the only accommodation that can be provided is exemption. And honestly, it sucks. But we see it in a lot of accommodations, like disabled people not being able to work, or like how I couldn't take French lessons when I first moved here because they couldn't accommodate me in the classrooms. So I have a language exemption on my residency title, and I hate that. I can't begin to explain how much I hate it. I don't want to be exempt because I'm too complicated to include, which is why I would rate exemption as a bad accommodation. If your way of evening the playing field is by removing me as a player, that's a shitty accommodation. Thanks for listening to this disability aside. Let's get back on track. Anyway, so yes, I have all these things to help me do the stuff that my body is actively trying to prevent me from doing. And if anything, the one thing I have proven to myself time and time again since becoming disabled, it's my top-notch creative problem-solving skills. Because goddamn, finding the right accommodation for your needs can be just as, if not more, challenging than the thing that you're trying to find the accommodation for. It made me think of all the little things I have in my life that I use to help my disability that were not made specifically for people with disabilities. For example, my hands spasm and I drop shit all the time, but I also like to cook. However, impromptu jazz hands and kitchen safety are not things that typically go together. So, after the umpteenth time of me cutting myself while trying to chop onions, and yes, that does sting about as much as it sounds like it does, I got me one of these babies. Multifunction vegetable cutter, manual vegetable spiralizer and cutter, vegetable cutter, cube, onion, carrot, cucumbers, tomato, fruit, kitchen accessory 4-in-1 black for $29.99. You just put the onion or potato or whatever the hell you want to in this grid thing and you close the lid and then bam, cubes or batanet, depending on how you arrange it. Look at this bitch remembering her knife cuts from first semester culinary school. Now, does this thing limit the kind of cuts you can do? Yeah, obviously. But my hands really love not being sliced open almost every time I try to cook. It's easy to put together, it's all dishwasher safe. I admittedly can't cook as much as I'd like to, so I'm not comfortable talking about the durability of it, but I did cut down potatoes and carrots with this thing. And those are pretty hard vegetables, so it's just nice that I'm able to do this by myself without risking injury. And saying that out loud, it does sound kind of dramatic. Maybe a little silly, but honestly, it's true. I've had to get stitches because of my hand spasms. So it is dangerous. And this item really has made my life safer and easier, just like my traditional accommodation tools do. Obviously, I'm not the only one who has come up with some creative disability tools. I talked to some of my friends and family as well about the things that they use to meet the accommodations that they need in their lives. And it was interesting to hear their answers. Mostly because, almost everyone couldn't answer the question right away. It's just these are the things we do. It's just living life. So unless you really sit down and parse your life apart, it's hard to think about all of these things that we use and all of the ways that we're being creative, especially when the world is trying to tell us that we're not really worth much. They're wrong though. What ended up being a really interesting way to think about it was to talk about things that I do regularly that I currently don't really need any accommodation for. If you remember, I have 3 long projects that I have committed to, all in part of my efforts to beat away the depression feedback loop that I find myself in. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. But 2 of the things that I do is that I read every day, and I also crochet. Reading. I read every single day. Even while I've been struggling with feeling bad these last few weeks, I've kept up with my reading record. I just really like it. It makes me feel fulfilled. It gives me happy brain tingles. Needless to say, I talk about reading a lot, both on here and in real life. around me, you can't escape it. I will always be talking about the book that I'm currently reading, or somebody will say something and they'll remind me of a book that I just finished reading, and I'll like go on a tangent about it. But I was talking to someone who has some vision issues about reading. I was talking about a book that I had just finished, and she was interested. Now, you may know that I have some vision issues. I have a blind spot in one of my eyes, and it's getting better, according to some doctors. So I don't have a lot of issues right now with reading. But for this person, they are legally blind, and their vision impairment really affects a lot more of their life than just reading. Unfortunately, though, they really like to read. We talked a little bit about the options for them. Unfortunately, they can't actually utilize their library because of accessibility problems. It's a running theme in this entire existence. What's actually truly surprising to me is that Amazon and their services don't suffer from the same accessibility issues as most other web services. So it's a really good option for people who are visually impaired.
Quick note from editing, Callie. No, this is not an advertisement for Amazon, though I do use them a lot. But it is a good reminder that even if you are boycotting Amazon, and that's something that is going to work for you, because yes, they're an evil corporation and we should be boycotting them as much as we can, there are some people in your life who maybe can't do that because of accessibility issues, especially in places where they're not able to get any other services. Amazon might be their only option. So keep that in mind as you are fighting the good fight and doing all of the resistance things that we all need to be doing. Just remember your disabled friends who maybe are not able to join you on that portion of the fight. But we're with you in other places.
But between an Audible subscription and a Kindle Unlimited subscription, Kindle Unlimited version is both cheaper and she can access more than just one book a month. So it made sense for her to go that route. But I hear you asking, how are they able to read the books through Kindle Unlimited if they can't see the screen? And the answer? Alexa. Hey Alexa, can you read the book from my Kindle library? Literally all you have to say, and Alexa will read the book from your Kindle library out loud to you. Apparently it's not always great, and Alexa's voice can be a little wrong with pronunciation occasionally, but it's better than nothing. It's amazing. I just wouldn't have thought of doing that. And it does mean that I know how I can keep up with my reading streak if I ever do get eye surgery. But hey, if you're in a similar situation, say recently, are dealing with some vision impairment issues and misreading, don't have very many options, why don't you give this a shot? It might just work for you. Apparently, Alexa and all these virtual assistant devices that are out on the market right now have been really good for the blind and vision impaired community. It makes so much sense to me because these things can do so much for you. Everything from making orders to hearing the news headlines to finding out what's going on in your local community. Some of them can like read your email to you. And these devices that I initially maybe would have thought of as not important are so important. They're like godsends for people in this community. And it's really cool. Next up, yarn crafting. Now, as for the fiber arts that I like to do, I do have some issues with my hands being jerks. And it's hard for me to sometimes hold a crochet hook. Like right now, it's really fucking hard. I just did like 4 rows and my hands are aching. It's because it's rainy season. So, needless to say, I have some minor issues when it comes to my yarn crafts. But I have a friend who has, I guess you could say, a bit of a bigger hurdle, like crocheting and knitting. These are traditionally very hands-on kinds of crafts. Specifically, a two-handed sort of thing, and she was born with only one hand and manages to blow my mind all the time with the simple tasks that I can't figure out how to do with two hands, let alone one. And when it came to yarn crafts, I just couldn't wrap my head around it, but she manages to make really pretty pieces. So finally, I just asked how she does it, and the answer is so simple. And I don't know why I didn't think of it, but she uses a loom. Of course, it makes so much sense. She showed me what she uses, and it's a super simple solution that I just wouldn't have thought of. When I looked into it, it seems that this is an option for a lot of people who are into yarn crafting. Some people turn to loom stitching, or there are these knitting machines that are honestly super cool that some people learn how to use when they get like diminished use of their hands. Or, like my friend, the traditional means are just not an option for them. The ingenuity of the disability community just astounds me. Even when I'm in it and I have my own creative solutions to meet my needs, I'm always so blown away by what everyone else comes up with. And the point of this whole video, I just wanted to share some of the cool stuff that people have come up with. Maybe it will give you a few ideas for your own solutions. And hey, it's a good reminder that no matter what obstacles I might encounter on my own disability journey, there's solutions to help me keep doing the things that I love. But yeah, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you like this, make sure to like it so I know. And if you're into more chill storytime, bookish type content, you should definitely subscribe. I don't have the most consistent upload schedule because of, well, the content of this video. So subscribing and turning on notifications is probably the best way to get more from me. And it will also give me a nice hit of that sweet, sweet dopamine. So really, it's a win-win situation. But let's talk about you. Do you have any creative solutions for something that you're dealing with? What kinds of accommodations do you, or maybe a loved one, need? Maybe your story, or somebody else's, will help others. Who knows? Anyway, that's it. Take care, and see you soon.